Hey y'all, how y'all doing? It's Shalisco signing in for another video. What's up? I'm so happy I'm able to be consistent this year. Thank you guys so much for your support and your love over my videos. Honestly, I can't say it enough. I cannot say it enough because without the support that I get from the comments to the shares on social media, if you haven't checked out my social media platforms, they're down below, or just search up Shalisco underscores on both sides. And just the love I receive in general, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. And God, most importantly, Jesu. I thank you so much, So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. This summer is going to be amazing. I already know it. You already know it. With the way we're coming back with the consistency after a time of drought, not having videos from moi. Honestly, the summer's gonna come and go with a bang. Best believe that. A topic that has been roaming in my head for a while has been the subject of pretty privilege. And if you are not new to this channel, you know that I talked about pretty privilege about 3 years ago, actually around the same time, talking about how pretty privilege in conjunction with whiteness can be seen as rather problematic and how it affects the way we perceive people in our everyday lives. However, I believe I did not do that subject matter enough justice. And also there are many different things that play into the outlook of pretty privilege. With that being said, the new mini-series we're going to be starting is Pretty Privilege Intersecting with the Patriarchy. I did not like the way it looked when I was going ahead to talk about this mini-series, so we're going to do it again, okay? So first, we're going to be talking about pretty privilege at length. Then we're going to be discussing the patriarchy. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about the patriarchy and pretty privilege and how it intersects in our everyday life. Well, today we're going to be discussing pretty privilege. We're going to be going through its definition at length, going ahead to see it through the lens of dating, movies and TV shows, throughout all the different age demographics, view the pros and the cons, and really answer the question within ourselves. Is pretty privilege really a privilege, or is that just a fallacy? Pretty privilege, by definition, is essentially someone receiving advantages in life because they are seen as pretty. People can experience pretty privilege in many different ways. It could be someone opening the door for you, someone paying you a compliment online or even in person, someone paying for your drink at a bar, but it can go as far as people becoming whole influencers overnight just because of the fact that they look pretty in the face. I even heard of someone literally coming out of the pen with a whole modeling career because this man was fine. Y'all letting criminals? Can we say that by definition, pretty privilege is wrong? Yes. Yes, we can, because it honestly can seem unfair on how certain people can be treated better than everyone else or other people who are not seen with pretty privilege just based off the fact that they are pretty. Why can't we just treat everyone with common decency? Why is it that your attractiveness or your beauty is a determining factor for you to just get basic respect, basic decency? It lays this huge emphasis on people's physical attraction. And I feel like our society placing so much emphasis on beauty can be seen as rather toxic. This conversation of beauty needs to be looked at in a critical way because we need to discuss on how beauty has now been commodified. It could be bought, it could be manufactured, and someone somewhere is making money off of it. All right. I think that with beauty being an inherent value nowadays, people want it so bad because it adds to their value. It adds to how much respect they get, and it adds to their desirability to their desired gender. So with consumerism being at its all-time high, what do you think is left for all these companies out here who want to make money off of people's insecurities? When it comes to pretty privilege and dating, the common theme that I'm hearing is that people are still single. It don't matter how pretty you are. It don't matter how amazing you are as a person. People are not finding their partners. And it seems like that the people that don't have pretty privilege are also experiencing the same thing. Why is that? Why are people who are seen to have an advantage in society to pick better partners, they're having greater selection, still having an issue in finding what they want? But anywho, it's as though that people on both spectrums of pretty privilege, whether having it or not having it, are experiencing the same thing. And just a hypothesis here, I believe that they're meeting the same people. They're meeting the same people who are literally mimicking behavior that we've seen in their fathers, their brothers, their uncles, their grandfathers, their great-grandfathers, and so forth. They are in the same brain cell. They think with the same brain cell. They have not advanced from the ways of old. It's not even the fact that we're talking about traditional men or modern men. It's their value system. It's the way that they're composing themselves. And with that, it's like there's this constant push for women to go ahead and be the best versions of themselves and present it to someone that they are interested in. But most times, these women are not finding the best versions that they want to see from these said men. Or I could be wrong. Let me know what you think down below.
Girls are perfect 10 out of 10s. Like, we all know at least one. Guys don't talk to them.
I wanted to stitch this video, and I have talked about this before. I mostly got attacked in the comments section, unlike this creator, because I guess you guys have to hear something from a man to determine it true, but I digress. Yep, I said it. Anyway, personally, I think this is the case because ego. Guys love a challenge, they love to chase after something, but they don't like a challenge in the exchange of their ego or an ego burn, ego bruise, whatever. If they feel like they can't attain that thing that they're chasing, the thing that they're fighting for, them not getting it, that rejection will hurt them. They don't go after like the super intimidating, beautiful, like bombshell girl unless their ego gives them some reason to believe that they can attain that girl. But any seemingly normal guy most likely is not going to go after that girl because he feels like there's too much competition, her rejection is going to hurt, she has a boyfriend, she's intimidating, she's going to say no, like so many things. So they go for the woman that in their mind is easier attainable because it won't hurt their ego.
And I honestly wonder if men who experience pretty privilege or both spectrums of either having pretty privilege or not having pretty privilege are also experiencing the same thing. However, something I've been seeing for some time is that there will be a very beautiful woman, right? A person who you would say has pretty privilege, right? And she's worked on herself, or you would presume that she's worked on herself, right? And she ends up getting with someone who doesn't necessarily emulate what we would expect her to be with. Like, that person doesn't look like someone that kind of person would be with, like, at all. He's like probably average looking at best. And yeah, he makes her laugh and he has great banter, but mentally speaking and emotionally speaking and spiritually speaking, they are not compatible at all. But oh, he makes me laugh and he just seems like such a great person and we just vibe so well. Vibe. Where are we vibing to? Please, auntie, Edakon, where are we vibing to? Vibes you go chop. Is it vibes you go eat? Like, and then you end up complaining down the road that I don't know what happened. Like, things just seem, you were literally in the honeymoon stage. You didn't ask the right questions and you just got with anyone because you wanted to fill the void in your heart. And now you with the man that you probably stuck with because you had a child with him and you are still unhappy and not thriving in the best way at all. Mind you, this is something that I said happens often, but not all the time. Okay? Not all the time. Because I feel like when people get into that honeymoon stage, they tend to blur the lines of compatibility and chemistry. They don't know the difference between the two. But hey, what do I know? And you see, the thing with this is that these men now see the babe that this man is able to bag doing literally the barest minimum, even below the barest minimum, yeah? And they're like, you know what? Let's see how much I can get out of this babe without putting my best foot forward, you know? They don't have nothing to offer. While you're working on yourself, you're doing your best and everything like that, you're making sure you're doing your self-care, you're going to therapy, you're working now, you have a good paying job, you're taking care of your family, friends, everything. This man, what does he have to show for it? What does he have to show for it? And even the better selection of men that you would say are out there are slim. You cannot find them anywhere. And if you do find them, you have to hold on to them for dear life, because you don't know who will take them, what forces and things will try to mess up whatever you got going on. So you're now dealing with these men who are taking the bar and bringing it down to the trenches of. When analyzing how pretty privilege influence friendships, I think it's very, not necessarily cool, not necessarily bad, but interesting to see that you see friendship groups that have a specific look most times, because people attract other people that look like them, especially when it comes to friendships. Like, you want people who align with you the most, and at times people who align with you the most tend to look very similar to you without even realizing it. I know there are certain people who don't have genuine friendships and want to have a certain look for their friendship group so they can seem like they are the it girls and stuff like that. I understand that there are friendships like that, but most times you end up seeing people that are in friendship groups that look very similar to each other without doing anything. It just ends up happening like that. However, you can see how problems arise when everybody in the group, except for one person, looks similar to each other. And in social settings where you can tell where beauty is now a value, like an intense value, like to the point where people will only interact with you if you look a certain way, that friend ends up being left out. That doesn't necessarily mean that that one friend is like an ugly person or unattractive, but in comparison to their other friends, they're not seen on the same level, and they end up being the designated fat friend, the duff. I believe if you really care about your friends, you won't put them in situations where they feel alienated. Like, you'll go out of your way to protect their self-esteem, to protect them. So if it means not going to certain social gatherings or not going to certain clubs because you know that they're going to discriminate against your friend for looking a certain way, then you don't go. You actually just, why would you want to go to a space where they discriminate against people based on the way they look in the first place? Pretty privilege in movies and TV shows are quite a sight to see. And honestly, I love seeing how these big topics honestly are reflected in art, because they truly mimic real life. So when it comes to the type of shows and movies that are targeted to children as young as 7, 8, 9, we get to see at times this stereotypical stock beautiful character, or just pretty girl or pretty guy, that essentially is the sun of the ecosystem. Everybody else tends to revolve around them. And we see that the main character is usually not that stereotypical pretty guy or pretty girl. That main character usually takes their time to try to achieve their goals. Their goals can either be going ahead to date that person, going ahead to be friends with that person, or just wanting to be that person, wanting to emulate what they see in such a way where they probably end up being that stereotypical pretty person, that ends up being popular and cool and receiving all the attention. Because with the way that we socialize with pretty people in our society, we see the way that they're being treated. And for that reason, we either want to be in a space where we can receive that same attention, or we can be around the crowd that is giving that said attention. Just being a part of it in some way, shape, or form or capacity seems to add value to us in turn. that stereotypical pretty person is seen as a symbol of excellence, a symbol of perfection. And if we get lucky with these storylines, sometimes the writers get to show us how the halo effect really is dismantled. We get to see that character being an actual normal human being with feelings and an actual personality. We get to see depth to them more. And the main character in turn gets to actually choose what they want to do. Like, you get to see them truly have a pivot in their self-discovery around that time, especially that usually happens towards the end of the movie or towards like the end of the season. With seeing that halo effect fade away, it's very interesting when that main character chooses what's truly right for them in that stage. Whether seeing someone that they haven't seen before in the light of attraction, or going ahead to define who they truly are as a person. And honestly, those kind of storylines, when it is targeted towards children and youth, I think is such a positive thing to do. For late teens and adult TV shows and movies, we tend to see it out of the confinement of high school, middle school, or even elementary school, and now move to a more adult setting. This can typically look like, university life, or just seeing the everyday hustle and bustle of balancing work life, social life, their dating life, and just being an adult in general. You get to see the different interactions that these characters have, either having pretty privilege or not having pretty privilege. But most times the characters that are casted look a specific way. They tend to be very beautiful. So you know that they're going to be having a lot of dating experience, because usually with these TV shows and movies, it's either centered around their dating life and like all the different escapades that they go through, or the lack thereof, and exploring their self-discovery into being more beautiful. I find it quite amusing when people who are seen as average-looking actors go ahead and have these roles where they're put into situations where people see them as attractive, people see them as someone that they could be with, and they actually enjoy many perks of pretty privilege by just being themselves. And I would say that that is definitely a shift. That is something I would love to see. I actually find it quite amusing whenever you get to see average looking characters actually enjoy a very explosive dating life, and you get to see them make friends, and they're able to balance their work and social life, and you just get to see them have a full life without having to be exceptionally beautiful. And I think that the more we see that in movies and TV shows, we'll be able to actually see that emulated in reality more and more and more. And I'm so excited for that, because it really rewrites this idea that you have to be beautiful, you have to be extremely and exceptionally attractive in order to have a good life. When you could just, be charismatic and have a great personality and be witty and just take care of yourself, and you will indeed live a good life. I like that. In the early 2000s, I would say that people had to look a specific way in order to be in the big screen. Of course, there wasn't huge advancements on plastic surgery back then, and people weren't just getting stuff done often. But at the same time, we had people who looked somewhat normal, but they had to be gorgeous to be on screen. And I feel like now that standard is slightly changing. Like, we're seeing everyday people who are, yes, attractive and everything, but they're not exceptionally beautiful in order to land these roles. Not saying that they're not, man, now I'm putting myself into a pickle, because I'm not saying that these people are not exceptionally beautiful or gorgeous or anything like that, but they look like everyday people. That's what I'm trying to say. They look like everyday people, beauties that you would see all over your city, to be honest, that have a chance to grace the screen without enhancements to their face or them having this model status look. They're just everyday people, and I really enjoy that. Pretty privilege seems to have a lot of pros and cons, but are there really pros to pretty privilege? Like, yes, people are nicer to you, people can hold out your door and pay you compliments and stuff like that, but the cons seem to outweigh the pros. Like, the things that people think that they're able to obtain with pretty privilege tends to be the opposite. Like, sometimes when people think that you're too pretty, you actually lose out on opportunities because people think you already receive so many opportunities, but there are more people who think that you receive a lot of opportunities already, so you're being robbed of all those opportunities sometimes altogether. Or at times people think that you're daft. People think you don't get sense. You don't think there's nothing more to you than a pretty face. So if you were a person who wasn't always beautiful or were always seen as beautiful, but you valued your mind more, it's almost like a stain on who you are as a person. Like, the level of disrespect that people would now think that there's nothing more to you than just a pretty face. Like, I'm not gonna lie, if someone thought that of me, on site, no. At times, pretty privilege can put you in a very dangerous spot. People think that they can go ahead and manipulate you, they can hurt you in some kind of way, they can have their way with you at any point in time, and your life could be at risk. And I think that's for both genders, because if you're seen as an attractive man or a pretty boy of some kind, if you're around the wrong set of men and they think that you swing a different way than you actually do, you can actually be really hurt, because there are some dangerous people out there. And for women, that could put you in a situation where you think someone actually likes you and you like them, but because of your like for them, it blinds you to who they really are as a person. And they could honestly just be trying to get stuff from you. And that honestly would damage the way that you see people in general. Now, can we truly say that pretty privilege is still a privilege? No. But yes, pretty privilege is still a privilege in most cases. As yes, there are extreme cases where you can get hurt and you can be put in dangerous situations, but people are still people. And the way that we see others who are attractive are still there. They're not going to change anytime soon. Even though we are making changes slowly, it's going to take some time before people just treat everyone the same, just out of common decency and not based off the fact that they're attractive. But at the same time, no, it's not really a privilege, because it's like you're having more responsibilities now. It's almost like the saying, heavy is the head that wears a crown. Yes, the crown is pretty and you have a lot of cool perks, but at the same time, there's a whole bunch of responsibilities that are now put on you because you wear this crown, because of the title that the crown comes with. So yes, I agree that pretty privilege is a privilege, but no, I also disagree that pretty privilege is not a privilege. But let me know what you think down below. Some things I did want to address from my last video on pretty privilege that I made about 3 years ago is that, number one, the subject matter of Eurocentric features or featureism is very much real. However, I believe that when it comes to speaking on people of ethnic backgrounds and saying they have Eurocentric features, that is not meant to take away of where they're ethnically from. I think that people now go ahead and say this as a way to like rob you of who you truly are. You are not a white person dipped in chocolate just because you have Eurocentric features. Eurocentric features can apply to literally just anybody, you know? And yes, featureism is still definitely alive, as certain features that are commonly known for white people to have that are on other ethnic groups, they can essentially have a certain level of, you know, exoticism added to them because of the simple fact that they have features that look white. Number two, pretty privilege is quite subjective, and there are different ranges of pretty privilege. It's the same way how we also need to talk about how you can be conventionally attractive And you can also be unconventionally attractive, but still be attractive.
When I say that I'm not conventionally attractive, I don't say it so people can be like, oh, no, you're so, no. I say it because I believe it, it's true, you know? And just because I say I'm not conventionally attractive, I don't mean that I'm unattractive or that I'm not attractive. I think I'm very attractive. And it doesn't say anything about my self-esteem. In fact, I love the way that I look. I wouldn't change anything about my face. What I think people don't understand is that the way that I perceive beauty standards is not that's the right way to look, or it's just what it is, you know? Like 20 years ago, the beauty standard and what was conventionally attractive was being stick thin. Do you know what I mean? And now people are getting BBLs. It's constantly on rotation. Like, I think that I've like cultivated this ability to really have my own self-esteem and to really like the way I look outside of what the beauty standards are. And I think that that's really powerful to have, especially as a woman, because those beauty standards are constantly changing. And is your self-esteem going to change every single time that those beauty standards change? So when someone says, oh, I don't think I'm conventionally like attractive, they don't mean I think I'm ugly. They just mean I don't fit into that caliber. You know, I don't fit into that caliber of what society deems as beautiful right now.
Based on what level of pretty privilege people may think that you're on, whether it's pretty and cutesy or beautiful and gorgeous or sexy and hot, based on those levels, people treat you as such. Like, there's a certain level of innocence that go to those who are pretty and they're cute. And there's a certain level of goddess-like attention people get if they're gorgeous and beautiful. And there's a level of fetishization that goes into being seen as hot and sexy. Based on the way that we see pretty privilege in the Western world, we tend to want to emulate beauty that we see. People who get attention for having pretty privilege tend to be the subject of desire. They desire to look like this. So when you see certain influencers who are seen as beautiful or pretty or have pretty privilege, you see so many people go ahead and ask for makeup tutorials so people can go ahead and do their makeup just like them so they can look like them, not realizing that the features and the way they look and the steez that they have helps them look the way that they look. You're not gonna look the same way at all. Like, the makeup tutorial is there and it's great, but their features and them going ahead to work on the stuff that they have, you know. And when I say work on, I'm not saying go get plastic surgery, that they got plastic surgery. I'm saying that them going ahead to accentuate the features that they already have help them to look the way that they look. You going ahead to copy said makeup tutorial is not going to help you have the same effect, because you need to study your face and know how to use makeup to accentuate the features that you have on your face. The same thing with shoes and accessories. It's all going to be different. You need to be able to work on what you already got and make it work for you. All right. But the world that we live in, even if you did your absolute best, which is carrying on to number 3, you can look your absolute best and feel your absolute best and still not have pretty privilege. And you still need to know how to navigate the world without it. You know, I understand that there has been videos over the last couple years of people speaking out on their experience with not having pretty privilege and how it's impacted their life and how at times it's unfair in the way that they're treated in our society. And I totally agree with them. Their feelings are 100% valid. But at the same time, you have to get to a point where you either change the systems around you or you adapt to the systems around you. And if people with pretty privilege are not going out of their way to break that idea of pretty privilege, because it's not going to be a person without pretty privilege that's going to change the system. It's going to be someone who has pretty privilege and a whole group of them being like going ahead to see us as some kind of like caricature or seeing us as some kind of object of desire is not the way to live. It's not the way to navigate respectability politics or go ahead and navigate the spaces of beauty. We're not going to actually have any change. whatsoever. So you're just going to have to either work with what you got and keep it pushing, or continuously talk about it to the point where there is change. There's literally one or the other option. There's no in between. And I don't want to give some generic advice that, oh, you should work on your inner beauty and we should all just love each other. And no. I'm not going to do that. Do what makes you happy at the end of the day, and continuously have these conversations about pretty privilege. Don't stop having them until things change, to be honest, because that is how things change. When people constantly have discussions about it and are willing to put actions to their words. That's simply all there is to it. And I'm happy that people are starting to understand the constructs of beauty and seeing how flawed they are, and how people are going ahead to, make money off of people's insecurities, off of how beautiful they are or not, and who truly defines what beauty is. You know what I mean? I don't want this to be like, oh yeah, kumbaya. It really isn't. It's not a kumbaya moment. It's very much like, why is the system the way it is, and how do we change it? How do we move forward from it? And we can do that just by talking.
Thank you so much, you guys, for watching this video. Thanks for getting to the end. Honestly, I know that this video was long. I was super excited to make this video, and like having to reshoot and re-edit and looking back at it, I'm like, wow. Yeah. But honestly, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully we get to talk about beauty more in the future and get more opinions and do more interviews. But honestly, let me know what you think down below about that. And the question of the day is what movie character or TV show character do you believe had pretty privilege, but at the same time use their brains to really move forward in life? My favorite character for that was Reese Witherspoon in Legally Blonde, Elle Woods. She was extremely beautiful, but at the same time, she had brains. She was actually smart and she applied herself. I know her ulterior motive was for a man, I get that, but at the same time, she ended up discovering herself, and I think that that's such a triumphant story. At times it's always that you want someone to be there for you and love you and everything like that, but sometimes you gotta save yourself, Cinderella. You got to be able to take your future by the horns and control it like a bull, okay? So yeah, bulls do have horns. But yes, honestly, she is my favorite character. Let me know some of your favorite characters down below that use their brains and their beauty to get to where they needed to go. Alright, y'all, thank you guys so much once again for watching. It is your girl Sholisco signing out, and remember, God made you special and he loves you very much, and you can do anything you set your mind to with Christ, of course. Alright, y'all, thanks.
I'm talking about. Bring it back.